Dr. John Garang, a member of Dinka group, was born on June 23, 1945 to a poor family in Wangule village in Bor, Jonglei State. He was the sixth child in the family of 5 brothers and 2 sisters. By the age of 10, his father died. In 1952, Dr. Garang went to Tonj Primary School. In 1956, he proceeded to Busheri Intermediate School in Wau, and in 1960 he joined Rumbek Senior Secondary School but did not complete his studies. In 1962, he joined the First Sudanese Civil War, which was led by General Joseph Lagu. But because he was so young, the leaders of the movement encouraged him and others of his age to seek education. Dr. John Garang won a scholarship. He went on to earn a bachelor degree in economics in 1969 from Grinnell College in Iowa, USA, and he was offered another scholarship to pursue postgraduate studies at the University of California. But he chose to return to Tanzania and study East African agricultural economics at the University of Dar es Salaam. At the university, he was a member of the University Students' African Revolutionary Front, where he met Yoweri Museveni in 1960s. However, Garang soon decided to return to Sudan and join the rebels. The civil war ended with the Addis Ababa Agreement of 1972, and Garang, like many other rebels, was observed into the Sudanese military as a junior officer at the rank of captain. For 11 years, he was a career soldier and rose from the rank of captain to colonel after taking the infantry officer advance course at Fort Benning, Georgia, in the United States. In 1976, John Garang married his lovely wife Rebecca Nyandeng. By 1978, Dr. John Garang and his wife Rebecca Nyandeng went to the United States to further his studies and receive a PhD in economics in 1980. Dr. John Garang came back to Sudan and lectured at the University of Khartoum, Faculty of Agriculture. By then, he was also a colonel in the Sudanese Armed Forces. Colonel John Garang was serving as a senior instructor in the military academy in Wetsendi, where he instructed the cadets for more than 4 years, and later was nominated to serve in the military research department in the army headquarters in Khartoum. Dr. John Garang was sent by President Jafar Mohammed Nimeri to Bor, ostensibly to pacify 500 Southern Sudanese government soldiers in Battalion 105 who were resisting being rotated to posts in the north. However, Garang was already part of a conspiracy among some officers in the Southern Command arranging for the defection of Battalion 105 to the anti-government rebels. When the government attacked Bor in May and the battalion pulled out, Garang decided to join his colleagues in Bor, his hometown, with William Nyon and Carbino Konyi Ball and others to establish the Sudanese People Liberation Movement and Sudan People's Liberation Army in May 16th Army in May 16th, 1983. Dr. John Garang was selected to lead the movement and become the chairperson of the SPLM and commander-in-chief of SPLA.
نوقف الاستعمار مرة واحدة عشان يال بتاعنا ما يشاكلوا تاني، عشان يال بتاعنا ما يشاكلوا تاني. ده يكون آخر بتاع النضال المصطلحة في السودان.
By the end of July, Dr. John Garang had brought over 3,000 rebel soldiers under his command through the newly created Sudan People's Liberation Army movement, which was opposed to military rule and Islamic dominance of the country, and encouraged other army garrisons to mutiny against the Islamic law imposed on the country by the Khartoum government. This action marked the beginning of the Second Sudanese Civil War, which resulted in 1.5 million deaths over 20 years of conflict. Although Garang was Christian and most of Southern Sudanese, he did not initially focus on the religious aspect of the war.
إذا واحد يقول السودان لازم يكون إسلام، يكون مسلم ويكون عرب، إحنا بقول لا، المسلمين جزء لا يتجزأ من مجتمع السودان.
Dr. John Garang and his army controlled a large part of southern regions of the country named New Sudan. He was a strong advocate for national unity. Minorities together form a majority and therefore should rule. Dr. John Garang refused to participate in the 1985 interim government, remaining a rebel leader. In 1989, al-Bashir came to power through a coup. He came in with a hard stand against any peace deals with the southern rebels and decreed jihad, and then started arming the local militants called the Popular Defense.
Here in the Sudan, there is a whole movement for Islam here. Thousands and thousands, I mean, of young, they don't mind fighting. I mean, they go and die. I mean, they're graduates, doctors of law or of engineering. They don't mind doing anything, I mean, for Islam.
This Islamic revival is only meeting the natural wishes of the Sudanese and enhancing their link to Allah. Sudan will carry the torch of Islam to all countries, including your own.
The result was massive displacement of people, unwarranted bombing of civilian populated areas, and scorched earth policy that ensured that South Sudanese were killed in their thousands due to hunger. Dr. John Garang believed they could replace President Omar al-Bashir with a government made up of representatives from all tribes and religion in Sudan.
A strong movement of revival right across this world, everywhere. And I'm sure that those who are in power would like to stop this movement have no future.
Democracy had been so much beaten up these days that even the devil can come and say he's a Democrat. People will listen to him. In a way, SPLA, we are a victim of our own image, of our own success. So the SPLA is a tool. A tool cannot be democratic. It's a tool in order to bring about a democratic society.
Senior SPLA commanders Riek Machar and Lam Akol in August 1991 attempted a coup to oust Dr. John Garang.
As people who stabbed the movement in southern Sudan in the back. They will be known as people who, at the point of victory, when we were going to win, they stabbed us in the back.
It's not a good character. It's not part of my description. Garang today has no troops. If we had troops, we would have been fighting here. Most of the troops were wiped out in Bor. And anybody else who wants to fight knows that his fate might be the same with those who were wiped out in Bor.
It exposed the deep ethnic division within the SPLA, and Southern Sudanese communities became highly divided than ever before in their history.
When this incident happened, we could not pull out forces from around Juba because this would be exploited by the enemy, and they did try it, of course. They thought that we have pulled our forces to go and fight Riek. But had we done so, they would have exploited it and would have broken out from Juba all that time. So Riek's betrayal is great.
This division among the Southern Sudanese communities was exhibited by the results of the divide and rule policies and method designed by the regimes in Khartoum in order to maintain their power over the Southern Sudanese people.
The vast majorities of the Sudanese people are therefore excluded from governance and are marginalized in the political, economic, and social fields. And this provokes resistance by the excluded, the neglected, the marginalized, and the oppressed. The Arab Islamic State ends up being imposed by force.
In the spring of the 1991, Mengistu Haile Mariam's regime in Ethiopia was overthrown by the Khartoum-backed Ethiopian rebels. Upon the rebels' seizure of the government, they closed all the SPLA training camps in Ethiopia and cut off the SPLA's arms supply, forcing the SPLA to return hundreds of thousands of Sudanese back to South Sudan. This disrupted military operation and leadership within the SPLA.
The ultimate goal of the Sudan government, they can crush any resistance in Sudan. The next program will be these neighboring countries where they would like to see Islamic State on all these countries.
Later on the Frankfurt Convention and Abu Abuja talks that were mediated by the Nigerian President Ibrahim Babangida compelled Dr. Garang and Omar al-Bashir to consider peace. In May 1993, through exerted efforts by the international communities under the auspices of Intergovernmental Authority on Development, the Machakos and Nivasha Protocol were signed.
Because we want this peace agreement, unlike the Addis Ababa agreement and other peace agreements that have been signed in the Sudan, to be owned by the people and for the Sudanese people to use it for their own empowerment. Because if the agreement is not owned by the people, then anybody can come around and dishonor it. As Abel Elier has written, 2-minute agreements dishonored.
However, the SPLA and the Khartoum government signed a peace agreement, formerly known as a Comprehensive Peace Agreement, on 9 January 2005 in Nairobi.
The war we are ending today first broke out in Torit on August 18, 1955, 4 months before independence, and so the South, like other marginalized parts of the Sudan, are really not part of that independence. With this peace agreement, we begin the process of achieving real independence by all Sudanese people and for all the Sudanese people. The signing of this comprehensive peace agreement thus marks the end of what I would correctly call the first republic of the whole Sudan that has lasted.
Garang returned to Khartoum for the first time since leading a rebellion against the Khartoum government. He arrived at a grand reception in one of the biggest crowds of South Sudanese ever witnessed in Khartoum.
الدكتور جون قرنق دي ما بير حبابك قبل السود حبابك بطل السلام حبابك يا دكتور حبابك يا بطل العدالة والحرية والديمقراطية وانتصرنا السنين كلها تعيش انت يا دكتور جون قرنق
والله زمنه حبابنا حبابك شعار الشف حبابك والله حبابك والله اقول حبابك والله ليه بعد بكره اقول حبابك.
نحن نبدأ اليوم مسيرة جديدة للسودان توقفت فيها الحرب وإن شاء الله بصورة نهائية منذ 55 عاما. بدأت الحرب في أغسطس 5 وهي استبشار إن شاء الله وسلام لكل أهل السودان وهي
On 9th July 2005, he was sworn in as a vice president, the second most powerful person in the country, following a ceremony in which he and President al-Bashir signed a power-sharing constitution. He also became the president of the government of Southern Sudan with limited autonomy for 6 years before a scheduled referendum of possible cessation.
Nobody would accept to be a second-class citizen in his or her own country unless we achieve a new Sudanese dispensation, a new Sudan that belongs to all of us equally, in which we are equal stakeholders. Then why should I remain in a country where I'm called Abid? No, I will not. But then let us therefore take the bull by the horns and change the Sudan so that it belongs to all of us, so that it remains united.
In late July 2005, Dr. John Garang died after the Ugandan presidential Mi-172 helicopter he was flying in crashed. He had been returning from a meeting in Rokotura with a long-term ally, President Yoweri Museveni of Uganda. Soon afterwards, a statement released by the office of Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir confirmed that a Ugandan presidential helicopter crashed into a mountain range in southern Sudan because of a poor visibility, and this resulted into the death of Dr. John Garang de Mabior, 6 of his colleagues and 7 Ugandan crew members. His body was flown to the new site, a southern Sudanese settlement near the scene of the crash, where former rebels, fighters and civilian supporters gathered to pay their respect to Garang.
South Sudan, and indeed the whole Sudan, has lost its beloved son, Dr. John Garang de Mabior, the first Vice President of the Republic of Sudan. When the helicopter he was traveling in crashed near south of New Kush.
The effect of Garang's death upon the peace deal is uncertain. The government declared 3 days of national mourning, which did not stop large-scale of rioting in Khartoum and in other parts of the country, which killed at least 24 youth, mostly from southern Sudan. After the 3 days of violence, the death toll had risen to 84. Leading members of the SPLM, including Garang's successor Salva Kiir Mayardit, however, declared that the peace process won't continue.
I shall hold tenaciously to the process of cooperation and good working relationship with President Omar Hassan Ahmed al-Bashir and Vice President Taha, which was initiated by my parting brother in the very short spell he had in the presidential offices. Smooth relationship within the institution of the presidency shall be key to the successful implementation of the CPA. The SPLM shall continue to use its good offices
Thank you.